Hey everyone, Keela here, or the main white tagger behind Tagger the Wins, and this is a video explaining how to properly measure yourself for any of my items. So hopefully you're watching this video because you've just ordered something for me. If so, or something from me. If so, thank you very much. And this is just to help clarify any confusions that you might have about the parts that you've ordered. So, to start off, my most commonly ordered parts are tails, and not everybody thinks that they have to measure anything for tails. However, it is recommended that you measure from your belt, I will get up to show, from your belt to the floor. If you do not do this, you may not know exactly how long of a tail you want to order. So this here is the tail for my character Keela. And this tail fits quite perfectly. I'm going to scoot out of the way so that you guys can see. I made sure that this tail does not hit the floor. So by going and taking those measurements, you can say, well, I would like to have a 3-foot tail, but I'm only 5'3". In that case, a 3-foot tail would most likely drag on the ground. So it's good to do that little preemptive measurement, see exactly how long the tail will be, because I will make the tail exactly to your specifications, if not a little bit longer, depending on how fluffy the tail is at the end of it. So that's pretty straightforward. So next we're going to talk about arms. Arm sleeves and hand paws are pretty straightforward. If you're getting full-length arm sleeves from me, you need to measure your biceps, all the way around, complete circumference of your biceps, your forearm, and your wrist. You need to tell me these things in that order. That way the sleeve will fit you perfectly and won't be too baggy or too tight. It's usually better to be too baggy than too tight, of course. And then I need your elastic measurements. I build my sleeves like your actual shirt sleeves. So if you're going to take your elastic measurements, look at where your shirt sleeve seams are. You can see mine on this shirt here are right around here. So from here to here is usually the measurement that I require. You can go a little bit shorter because I will be using elastic. Elastic, of course, as you know, is stretchy. So we would rather it be nice and snug and stretch a little bit when you move your shoulders than for it to be too loose so that they're still just kind of sagging instead of being nice and tight. So make sure you take those measurements accordingly. Start from here and go a little bit in, and that's pretty much the measurement you want. Elastic will stretch over time, so if it's too tight, it won't be an issue after a few times of wearing the sleeves. So for 3/4 length sleeves, it's the same thing. I usually need your measurements from just above your elbow, and then your forearm and your wrist, and then for regular sleeves, I just need your forearm and your wrist, midway through your forearm, because this is where your sleeves will end. It is recommended that you add an extra inch to your measurements. Sometimes measuring tape could be a little funky, you're not exactly sure what you're doing. If you add an extra inch, it'll make sure that nothing is too tight. Too tight is way worse than too loose. If you send it back to me and you say, hey Keela, this is too loose, I'll say, oh, okay, no problem, I'll get it back to you in a day. If you say it to me and say, hey Keela, this is too tight, it'll take a lot of extra time, I'll have to make sure I match the fabrics, I'll have to let out the seam. So it's just a hassle. Make sure that you add a little bit too much, but not too much to the point where it's baggy and then looks bad when you receive it. I'm usually pretty competent with making my sleeves, so you don't have to worry too much. And then these sleeves for Keela don't actually have elastic on them, only because for a personal costume she has a lot of different outfits, and it's easier when I don't have the elastic. But this is how your sleeves should fit. You notice it took me a little bit of time to struggle and get it on. However, I have full range of motion in the sleeve. I can do whatever I want with it. That is how your sleeve should fit. You should not put it on and have it slide off. Even without the elastic, this sleeve is not going anywhere, and that's how it should be. So for your hand paws, if you're ordering a pair of hand paws to go with your arm sleeves, I usually offer them as a bundle. You will want to get preferably a piece of construction paper, or printer paper is okay, but the thicker the paper, the easier it is for me to use it as a pattern. So if you get this paper, and I want you to trace a hand turkey. A hand turkey, let me get a piece of paper. It's a pretty classic little thing from elementary school, where you take a piece of paper and you spread your hand as far apart as possible. This is so important. Do not give me a tracing like this. I cannot do anything with this. Your hand has to be spread fully apart, as far as you can possibly reach, and make sure you have somebody go and trace in between your fingers as well as they possibly can. I will be using this to make your hand paws. It's why my hand paws are such a perfect fit. Speaking of hand paws, here is an example pair right here. So my hand paws fit a little weird because they are this cute mix between. Let me actually get the one that matches. They're a cute mix between paws and fingers. They're not the big character cartoony paws, but they're not just fingers either. It's a nice little blend. Very cute. So your fingers will actually go all the way down. These stop about halfway on your finger. So on me, the paws are about here. That is normal. You still have full dexterity. You can still do whatever you want with your hand paws. It's fine. I know some people get them and they're a little bit confused at first. I have, for example, a pen here. I can still pick up the pen and write just fine. If I need to get a drink of water, I can still pick up a water bottle. These paws have great dexterity. When you put them on, you should be able to shake them off, but it should not be to the point where if you just hang your hand down, they fall off. They should stay on no matter what. So those are your hand paws and your arm sleeves, pretty standard. For your feet paws, I always request a pair of shoes. And people like to ask, well, Keela, what kind of shoes do you prefer to work with? One, I prefer to work with new shoes. I will accept gently used shoes. And I use the word gently used very, very strongly. If, I've got fur in my mouth, sorry. If I get a pair of shoes in the mail and I feel that these are a hazard to myself in my workplace, I will immediately return to sender. It's very important for you to look at your shoes, and if you have to ask, just buy a new pair of shoes. I usually like to work with fabric-based shoes, but Crocs are a favorite. These are for a current customer right now. Crocs, these plastic kind of Crocs, are extremely comfortable. They breathe very well. They take very well to the outdoor bottoms. They do not take as well to the indoor style bottom shoes, but I'm not doing those feet right now anyways on commission. So you're most likely getting an outdoor style feet paw. These are fine. I will build the foot paw around this so that you can reach in and use this to pull up on your foot. These are preferred for most customers. I can work with these, no problem. I have the easiest time of working with, oh geez, sorry, with, that's so unprofessional phone, canvas style shoes. These are also just fine. I like these. Hot glue takes really well to it because hot glue bonds fabric together really well. The E6000 works pretty well with the bottoms of these kinds of shoes, and they're also usually pretty cheap. Don't spend too much money on your feet paw shoes. Remember that they will be covered, not really destroyed, but you won't ever be able to use them aside from for feet. But make sure that they're comfortable because you're gonna want to be able to wear these for as long as you possibly can. So make them comfortable, make them fit, make them new. If they're new, then they'll last even longer. Think about it that way. Even if they're like your favorite old worn pair of shoes that are like super comfy, if I turn them into feet paws, there's still the chance that they're gonna keep wearing out. And you don't want that to happen. You don't want to like be wearing your super awesome feet paws and then your old crappy shoes rip and, you know, the insides fall out or something crazy like that. My process of making outdoor feet paws will actually give them a little bit more life, but not by much. It'll give more life in the sense to the bottoms and the areas surrounding the toe. I will work with them, I just prefer not to. So when you're when you're ordering your feet paws, I will need the measurements of your ankle. It's very important. I will use your shoe usually for measurements, but I will need your ankle and your calf. My feet paws usually go midway up your calf, and I'm going to show you my leg and I apologize. So from ankle to about here on your calf is where your feet paws will go. They are designed to be tucked under or over. If you want them to be sort of showy, let me know and I'll do a finished edge on the top that's made to be shown. Otherwise, I usually do edges with elastic, and elastic doesn't look as good as a nice and neatly folded over fabric finished edge. Just let me know and I will be happy to comply. Here I have a pair of feet that are currently in the works but almost finished, and you can see how this extends upwards. This is the customer's ankle measurement, and this customer actually preferred to install his own pull tabs inside of the shoe. Really useful idea, really difficult execution. If you want to modify your shoes to make it easier on yourself before you send them to me, feel free. If you want something like this from me, you'll have to talk to me about it because I have a lower end sewing machine, and sewing things like this to the canvas is extremely difficult for a lower end machine. Very easy for higher end industrial machines, but not so much for commercial based machines. So after all of that, those are your feet, your hands, your arms, your tail. Now it's time for the head. The head is a little bit confusing. A lot of customers get a little overwhelmed by the head measurements because I ask for very specific measurements. You should always take comfort, oh my gosh, my ears. You should always take comfort in the fact that I ask for so many measurements. It means that I do care about making everything fit just right. So, I've got my character Keela right here, and I'm going to show you how her head measurements work on me. So Keela's got the following eye system, and this is something that I'm still improving on every time. I will experiment until I get something that I like. These work. They work pretty well. So she's also got a moving jaw, and I obviously also wear glasses. So I'm very familiar with working with glasses to make everything fit just right and work just right for you. Glasses fogging up is a real issue, and you don't want that happening to you. So, for head measurements, I usually start with the circumference of the head. So I need from the thickest point on your head, which is usually your forehead, all the way around, and give me, this is for an elastic measurement, so give me the exact number. And if you want to go a little bit less, like by 1/4 of an inch, that's okay, but I usually recommend that you just give me the exact number. So that will be to make sure that everything's nice and fitted up here. Then I need your eye to chin measurements. Your eye to chin is from here to here. Side of your face is usually preferred. Front of your face is fine as well. You just need to tell me if you're using the front or the side of your face. This is for your jaw to vision. So it makes sure that the head isn't too long. From here to here, this way the jaw will sit perfectly underneath of your chin and you'll still be able to see out of your head. As opposed to getting a head where the eyes are up here and the chin is down here and nothing fits right. I also need from here all the way to the top of your head, here, usually done around, and I will actually get a piece of measuring tape here to show you. Here we go. So from here, right underneath my chin, all the way up and over. Include your hair. Don't try to move your hair out of the way. If you have long hair, if you have voluminous hair, that's fine. I just need to know so that I can measure your head appropriately. So from there to the top of there, it's about 13 inches. I have a smaller, rounder head. I also have an actual life-size mannequin head. I will pad him up if necessary. If your head is smaller than his, then I will make the elastic especially tight. So to show you an example of the eye to chin, let's see if I can move my hand out of the way there for you. Right here, that's about 4.5 inches. If I do it on the side of my head, it's still about 4.5 inches. So it's usually pretty consistent on those measurements. And then, for example, of the circumference of the head, you'll see these measurements a lot. Usually 22 to, I think, 24 inches is pretty average. I've got a hat on, obviously. But my head with the hat on is 23.5 inches. Very typical size head. So those are about the measurements you should be seeing. If you're seeing around those numbers, you're doing it right. Good job. And if I look at something and I say, this doesn't seem quite right, that's okay. I'll let you know. Don't be insulted by it if I ask you to measure again. It's just because I don't want to make any mistakes. I want you to get your head and I want it to fit perfectly the first time around. So again, with arm measurements, just to show you how you can do all this yourself, it's not as difficult as one might think. I usually flex. I don't have muscles, but if you flex, it makes sure that when you flex with your actual sleeves on, it won't cause any discomfort. I usually give myself about an inch. You see this little bit of extra slack? That's about how I would want a regular t-shirt sleeve to fit me. It's about that much. So that is 13 inches. It's pretty average. Same again with the forearm. I'm going for the meatier part of my forearm here. And again, I want a little bit of slack. So that's around 11 inches. The wrist I usually want to be pretty tight. The wrist will hold everything in place. So my wrist is, and I'm just wrapping it tightly around my wrist, 6.5 inches. So you see how there's quite a spectrum and that creates the sleeve shape. If you want to be really extensive, you can also give me your mid-forearm, even if you're getting full sleeves. It's fine. The more measurements I have, the more I can accurately reconstruct your arm into a sleeve pattern. For your tail, again, hold this from your belt and you let it go to the floor. And you see, oh, about 30 inches is a pretty good length. My personal tail that you just saw earlier, just for fun facts, is, I should say, 31 inches. So that's a pretty decent length for someone that is 5 foot 3 inches tall, which is how tall I am. They're 6 feet tall, 3 foot tails are pretty awesome. They work really great. So I think that's pretty much all that I needed to show you guys today. Just get your trusty handy dandy measuring tape. Make sure you follow my instructions as best as possible. We're all human, we'll make some little mistakes. If so, I am willing to work with you every step of the way. Do not fret if you realize, oh gosh, Keela, I mismeasured. Let me know. I provide work in progress updates the whole time. You can find all of my further information about how to take care of your suits on my website at tigerofthewinds.com. I will be making a video soon of how to properly wash and care for your fursuit and your fursuit items. Just so that people know, you know, how to keep it looking nice and smelling nice. These suits should be washed. A lot of people don't seem to realize that fursuits can and should be washed. They can get really gross and sweaty. You want to make sure it's clean. So, anyways, before I digress any further, thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed and learned something from this, and I look forward to making something for you. Bye-bye!